Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that takes these really complex stories, often buried under mountains of source material, and tries to pull out the moments, the insights that, really stick with you.
And today, we are wading into a case that feels, well, less like straightforward crime and more like some kind of modern tragedy. Set unbelievably in suburban Canada, we're talking about the murder of Big Pan.
Yes, Big Pan. And it's the story of her daughter, Jennifer Pan, a young woman who got caught, truly trapped between these immense parental expectations and this just incredibly elaborate lie she built over years.
It's a story that really ripped the veneer off that quiet, affluent image of Markham, Ontario back in 2010. It exposed something much darker bubbling underneath.
So our mission today, as always, is to go deeper than the headlines. We want to unpack the whole timeline. We need to talk about the pressure inside the Pan home, the sheer scale of the academic fraud.
Right, and then the planning, the hiring of hitmen, the botched crime itself, the police work, including some pretty controversial tactics that led to a confession.
And crucially, this is the really current part, the surprising, honestly landmark legal decision from Canada's highest court that just came down. It changes the whole picture, really.
Absolutely. But the core event, the thing everything spirals out from, is November 8th, 2010. That night, Jennifer's parents, Hui Han Pan and Bik Ha Pan, were shot in their own home in Unionville.
Bik Ha died from her injuries. Han, her husband, survived miraculously, but was left permanently blind.
And what initially looked like, maybe a robbery gone horribly wrong, well, that narrative just dissolved incredibly quickly.
Yeah, revealing this calculated, just chilling plot, orchestrated, investigators determined, by their own daughter, Jennifer, seeking, well, money perhaps, but maybe something more fundamental. Freedom.
Freedom from a life she felt was strangling her. So let's start right there. Let's unpack the environment that created this situation, the Pan household itself.
To really get a handle on Jennifer's mindset, you have to understand her parents' story, right? Hui Han and Bik Ha Pan.
Exactly. They were ethnic Chinese refugees from Vietnam, known as Viet Hoa. They came to Canada, met and married in Toronto, started their working lives in Scarborough, worked incredibly hard.
And by 2004, they'd achieved that immigrant dream, moving the family to a nice house in Markham, which, for many symbolizes success, achievement, a good life.
Definitely. And they built it through sheer hard work. Han was a tool and die maker, skilled labor. Bick worked making car parts at Magna International, steady, demanding jobs.
They didn't just chase success, they got it. And for them, that success was built on, well, structure, discipline, and this unwavering focus on the family's future, especially the children's.
And that success translated directly into what the sources consistently describe as extremely high expectations for Jennifer and her brother Felix. It really sounds like a classic tiger parent scenario.
Yeah, excellence wasn't just encouraged, it was demanded. In everything. Perfection was pretty much the baseline expectation.
It wasn't just about grades either. It was about creating this image of elite achievement. Think about Jennifer's childhood activities.
Right, the figure skating. From a young age, rigorous training. The goal wasn't just recreation, it was like Olympic aspirations.
Yeah.
Huge commitment.
Until a knee ligament tear ended that dream, which must have been devastating in itself.
But the pressure didn't ease up, it just shifted. Music became the focus. Theory, harmony lessons from age 12, flute in the school band.
Every activity seemed geared towards building this perfect resume, not just for personal growth, but for status.
And the control.
Yeah.
It's intense. To ensure zero distraction, as you said, her parents picked her up from school every single day, monitored her friendships, her time.
Dating, absolutely forbidden in high school. No school dances. It wasn't just concern. It felt from the descriptions like total lockdown.
And even later, when they thought she was at university, the rules didn't really relax. No parties, no typical young adult stuff.
One source mentioned she was 22 and had never been to a club, never gotten drunk, never vacationed without her parents. Friends called her upbringing oppressive, like a prison.
Her own identity seems to have been completely secondary to this parental narrative of success they were building.
Which brings us to the academics. Because despite all this effort, Jennifer's grades in high school were, well, average, around 70% mostly, except for music.
And 70% was just not going to cut it. Not in that house, not with those expectations.
She knew, instinctively perhaps, that revealing anything less than stellar grades would lead to disaster. So the deception started. Small at first, maybe.
Forging report cards, changing numbers to create the illusion of straight A's. This wasn't a one-off. This became a pattern. Years of it.
But the whole thing hinged on one specific course. Grade 12 calculus. She failed it.
And that failure had immediate consequences. Ryerson University rescinded her early admission offer. The path her parents had mapped out just vanished.
Now, most people might confess at that point, right? Face the music.
You'd think so. But Jennifer doubled down. Maintaining the lie seemed less terrifying than facing their disappointment, which tells you something about the fear she was living under.
So she didn't just lie, she performed. She pretended she was attending university, specifically the pharmacology program at the University of Toronto, a very prestigious program.
And this wasn't just saying she went. She lived the lie. Instead of classes, she worked multiple jobs. Cafes, piano teacher, restaurant worker to have money, and an excuse to be out of the house.
She claimed fake scholarships. She bought real secondhand textbooks for courses she wasn't taking.
And the notebooks.
Yeah.
Apparently, she created these incredibly detailed fake class notes, filled with diagrams, handwriting, looking exactly like a diligent student's work.
Just in case her parents ever asked to see them, the sheer effort.
It must have been exhausting.
Yeah.
Holding down jobs, faking an entire academic life, probably more work than actually doing the degree.
Absolutely. It shows the depth of her fear. The lie had become all-consuming.
But even a lie that elaborate starts to fray. The parents, wanting proof of her success, got suspicious. She claimed she was volunteering at sick kids' hospital.
But couldn't produce an ID badge or uniform. They needed tangible proof of this elite status, she claimed, and she didn't have it.
That was the crack. And Big Pan decided to check for herself. She followed Jennifer one day.
And just like that, the whole multi-year deception imploded. The discovery was devastating.
Tan's reaction was apparently explosive. Fury, betrayal. He wanted her out of the house. Immediately. Years of sacrifice, seemingly wasted.
Vic stepped in then. Maybe she saw the desperation, maybe just trying to control the fallout. But the compromise wasn't exactly freedom for Jennifer.
No. She could stay, but only if she finished high school properly, applied to university for real this time.
And the biggest condition. She was absolutely forbidden from seeing her boyfriend, Daniel Chikwang Wong. Her world shrank again. No going anywhere except her piano teaching job. The house became a prison once more.
Let's talk about Daniel Wong, the forbidden boyfriend. The initial ban was about distraction, but with Wong, there was maybe another layer.
It seems so. Wong was of mixed Chinese and Filipino background, lived in Ajax, worked at Boston Pizza. He also dealt marijuana on the side. Jennifer apparently told people her parents disapproved, partly because of perceived ethnic differences.
So another layer of control, potentially rooted in cultural judgment.
And despite the ban, despite the surveillance, Jennifer and Wong kept seeing each other. Secretly. Finding ways.
Which must have put incredible strain on the relationship itself, always hiding.
Yeah, and eventually, it seems, it became too much for Wong. Sometime in 2009, he broke it off. He was frustrated with the restrictions, the drama. He started seeing someone else.
And this rejection seems to be the catalyst for Jennifer's next, truly disturbing escalation. Instead of accepting it, she launched into this series of really extreme fabrications.
Designed, it appears, purely to regain Wong's attention through guilt and pity. She invented these horrific, traumatic events.
Claiming men broke into her house, sometimes claiming gang rape, even involving someone wearing a police badge in her story, then claiming she received a bullet in the mail.
And then twisting the knife, blaming all these invented attacks on Wong's new girlfriend.
It's just staggering psychological manipulation, trying to make him feel responsible, guilty, protective, forcing him back to her.
And apparently it worked, at least partially. They did eventually reconcile.
But reconciliation didn't solve the underlying problem. Jennifer was still trapped, still under her parents' control.
So with Wong back in the picture, they devised the final horrific plan. The goal, hire a hitman. The price, $10,000.
The calculation was cold, parents gone. Jennifer inherits the estate estimated around $500,000. Enough for them to finally be together, free from her parents.
This wasn't a crime of passion. This required planning, logistics, finding the right people.
And Wong apparently took the lead on that. He connected Jennifer to a man named Linford Roy Crawford, Jamaican-born.
And look at the planning here. Wong gave Jennifer a specific SIM card and an iPhone, just for contacting Crawford, to keep it separate from her regular phone, avoid detection. That's premeditation.
Crawford then acted as a middleman, connecting them to Eric Sean Sniper Carty.
Carty, who it later turned out was the driver for the hit, then brought in David Mulvaganam, who was Montreal-born. That completed the chain.
And this wasn't even her first attempt at arranging something like this, was it?
No. Sources mention an earlier try, back in spring 2010. She'd contacted an old school friend, Andrew Montemayor, who who introduced her to someone named Ricardo Duncan.
Her claim was she paid Duncan $1,500 to kill her father at his workplace.
Duncan's story was different. He said she only gave him $200 for a night out, which he returned. He denied agreeing to any murder plot.
Regardless of the exact details, that first attempt clearly fizzled out, which forced Jennifer and Wong to regroup and start the process again 6 months later, leading to Crawford, Carty, and Mulvaganam.
So the plan is in place, the price agreed upon, the team assembled, November 8th, 2010, execution night.
In the family home in Unionville, Jennifer's role was crucial. While getting ready for bed, she went downstairs and unlocked the front door.
And then, right before the men entered, she spoke to Mulvaganam on that burner phone, the final signal. The house was ready.
Moments later, 3 armed men walk in through the unlocked door. We know Mulvaganam was one. The identities of the other 2 who entered the house were never definitively proven at the trial.
We do know Wong and Crawford were confirmed to be at their jobs. Carty was outside, acting as the driver.
The events inside were chaotic, but also strangely staged. The men demanded money, they ransacked the master bedroom.
But critically, they didn't take many valuable items, which, as you can imagine, immediately seemed odd to investigators later.
Then they took Han and Big Pan downstairs to the basement.
And there, they shot them. Both of them. Multiple times.
Big Pan died from her wounds. Han Pan incredibly survived, but as we mentioned, was blinded for life.
Jennifer's part in the staging was just as important. The men took $2,000 from her, the agreed-upon payment, essentially. Then they left.
She then claimed she'd been tied up, but somehow managed to get to her phone and call 911.
The medical response was fast. Han was rushed to Markham Stouffville Hospital, then airlifted to the trauma unit at Sunnybrook in Toronto because his injuries were so severe.
His survival, though tragic in its outcome for him, would turn out to be the single biggest flaw in Jennifer's plan.
So police arrive. Initially, maybe it looks like a robbery gone terribly wrong. Wealthy family, nice neighborhood.
Yeah, but York Regional Police got suspicious really fast. The story Jennifer told just didn't line up with the scene.
Too many things felt off. Why leave valuables behind if it's a robbery? Why was Jennifer, the only witness, completely unharmed, not tied up effectively, not blindfolded, nothing?
And the 911 call itself. How could she make it if she was bound as she described? It just didn't seem physically possible.
Police quickly started thinking she wasn't just a victim, maybe a witness with a weird story, or maybe something much more involved.
But the absolute game changer came from the hospital bed. Han Pan regained consciousness.
He woke from his coma, and despite the trauma, the confusion, he remembered something crucial, something that completely contradicted Jennifer's account.
This is the moment, isn't it? He told the police he saw Jennifer. Doing what?
He saw her whispering with one of the gunmen. And crucially, he described her tone as friendly and soft. Not the voice of someone terrified, but someone collaborating.
Wow, that one detail, that changes everything.
It gave police the leverage they needed. Jennifer went from potential victim or witness to primary suspect.
So November 22nd, 2010, she's brought in for her 3rd interview. The police now have Han's account.
Right. And the lead investigator, Detective William Bill Goetz, decided to use a specific interrogation technique. It's called the Reed technique.
Okay, we should probably explain that a bit for listeners. It's controversial, but legal in Canada. What does it involve?
It's essentially a psychological strategy designed to make a suspect confess. It presumes guilt and uses tactics like minimizing the crime, making it seem understandable, or maximizing the evidence, sometimes even bluffing about what police know.
And Goetz used the maximization part, bluffing.
Big time. He told Jennifer they had advanced computer software analyzing her voice for lies. He even claimed they had infrared satellite technology that could see movements inside the house.
Satellites? Seriously? That sounds like something out of a movie.
Pure fabrication. But legal for police to use during interrogation in Canada, the idea is to make the suspect feel like denial is futile, that the police already know everything.
And facing that kind of pressure, hearing about evidence, even fake evidence that seems insurmountable.
It worked. Jennifer broke. She admitted she hired the killers.
But even then, she tried to control the narrative, right? One last twist.
Exactly. She didn't confess to planning her parents' murder. Instead, she claimed the original plan was a murder-suicide plot, that she hired them to kill her.
Trying to frame herself as suicidal, desperate, maybe hoping for a lesser charge or more sympathy?
Possibly. But the core admission was there. She hired the killers. That confession, combined with Han's testimony and the inconsistencies at the scene, was enough.
So the rest of the others followed pretty quickly after that.
Yes. Mulvaganam was arrested in April 2011, then Carty. Wong was arrested quite publicly at his Boston pizza job, and finally, Crawford. The whole network was brought down.
All charged with first-degree murder for Bick, attempted murder for Han, and conspiracy.
The trial itself was a marathon. Started in March 2014, lasted 10 months. All four, Pan, Wong, Mulvaganam, and Crawford, pleaded not guilty.
What was the key evidence the prosecution presented?
A lot of it was technological. Police showed incredibly detailed cell phone records, tracking movements, communications.
Especially between Pan and Wong, right? You mentioned over 100 messages just hours before the attack.
Exactly, showing intense coordination right up to the last minute. The prosecution argued that this proved planning and deliberation the key elements for first-degree murder in Canada.
And they hammered home the inconsistencies at the scene, too. Jennifer being unharmed, the nature of the robbery.
Absolutely, and Han's testimony about her whispering to the killer.
Yeah.
Devastating for her credibility. It was a huge trial, over 200 exhibits, more than 50 witnesses.
The jury deliberated for 4 days. And the verdict?
Guilty. All four convicted in 2015. First-degree murder for Bick's death, attempted murder for Han, and conspiracy.
The sentence for first-degree murder in Canada is automatic, right?
Yes.
Life imprisonment with no chance of parole for 25 years.
What about Carty, the driver? He wasn't part of that main trial.
He had a mistrial initially because his lawyer got sick. Later, he pleaded guilty to the lesser charge, conspiracy to commit murder, got 18 years. But he actually died in prison in 2018.
The impact of this case, it wasn't just on the family. You mentioned the jury foreman.
Yeah, Patrick Slumming. He spoke out afterwards about the trauma, seeing the graphic evidence, the stress of being sequestered. He became an advocate for better mental health support for jurors in Canada. It highlights the toll these cases take on everyone involved.
And for the remaining family, Han and his son, Felix.
Complete break. They got a restraining order against Jennifer. She can't contact them. She's also banned from contacting Wong. The freedom she sought through murder resulted in total isolation.
Okay, so convictions, sentences, seemed like the end of the legal road. But
Right.
then 2023. Exactly. This is where it gets legally fascinating and frankly surprising. In May 2023, the Court of Appeal for Ontario made a huge decision.
They ordered a new trial.
For Jennifer and the three co-conspirators, yes, but only on the first-degree murder charge related to Bick Pan's death. Their convictions for the attempted murder of Han Pan were upheld. That distinction is crucial.
Why? What was the legal reasoning for overturning the murder conviction?
It came down to the trial judge's instructions to the jury. The appeal court found the judge made an error by only giving the jury two options for Bick's death. Either guilty of first-degree murder or not guilty.
They weren't allowed to consider other possibilities.
Right. Specifically, the appeal court said the jury should have been allowed to consider lesser charges like second-degree murder or manslaughter.
Can you quickly break down the difference again? First degree is planned and deliberate?
Correct. And contract killings automatically fall under first degree. Second degree is intentional killing, but without that planning element. Manslaughter is causing death through an unlawful act, but without the intent to kill.
So the appeal court felt there was some scenario, however unlikely, where Bick's death wasn't planned.
Essentially, yes. They argued that if the jury believed, for instance, Jennifer's late claim that she only hired them to kill her, or if they believed the plan was only to kill Han and Bick was killed spontaneously when she was discovered,
then the planned and deliberate element for Bick's murder might not be met, meaning second degree or manslaughter could theoretically apply.
and the highest court agreed.
Yes. Just recently, in April 2025, the Supreme Court of Canada upheld that appeal court decision. It was a 7-2 majority. So Jennifer Pan and the others will get a new trial, specifically on the first-degree murder charge for Bick Pan.
Chief Justice Wagner, for the majority, said there wasn't undisputed evidence contradicting the idea that the plan was only to kill the father. It boils down to a legal test called the air of reality. If any possible scenario exists that could support a lesser charge, the jury must be given that option.
Even if it seems far-fetched based on the overall evidence.
That's the principle. By limiting the jury's options, the original judge effectively removed their ability to consider those alternative intents regarding Bick's death.
But there was dissent on the Supreme Court. 2 judges disagreed.
Strongly. They argued there was no air of reality to the only kill Han theory. They pointed out Jennifer confirmed Bick was home before the killers went in. Both parents were taken downstairs together, shot together. It looked coordinated, but the majority ruled, so the new trial focuses solely on the intent behind Bick Pan's killing.
This case, it really struck a nerve, didn't it? Especially in Canada and within Asian communities.
Huge shockwaves. It became more than just a crime. It became a focal point for difficult conversations.
Media coverage, like in Toronto Live or Northwest Asian Weekly, really zeroed in on the tiger parenting angle, framing it as this tragic outcome of extreme pressure.
Yeah, it forced a discussion about the mental health impact, the psychological toll on children of immigrants who face these immense expectations for success. That clash between filial piety, the duty to obey parents, and personal failure.
For Jennifer, it seems the fear of her parents finding out about her failures was so overwhelming that the lie became this unbearable burden, leading to this desperate, violent solution.
And the story has endured. True crime loves this case. Jeremy Grimaldi's book, A Daughter's Deadly Deception, countless podcasts, shows like Deadly Women, it's become a fixture.
More recently, Netflix brought it back to a huge audience with the documentary What Jennifer Did in 2024.
Right, featuring interviews with the police involved, though that doc had its own little controversy.
Ah, yes, the AI images thing. People noticed some of the photos of Jennifer looked off, digitally manipulated.
Exactly. Accusations flew that AI had been used to generate or alter images without disclosure. The executive producer, Grimaldi again, denied using generative AI. He said they used editing software to anonymize the photo sources, and that caused the distortions.
It definitely raises questions about transparency and ethics in true crime docs as technology evolves.
And sadly, while Jennifer Pan's case is shocking, the underlying pattern isn't entirely unique. Our sources mention other international cases.
Like Jean-Claude Romand in France, Seth Gonzalez in Australia, Whitaker and Ewell in the U.S.
Yeah, all cases involving children who killed family after building elaborate lies about their lives, usually academic or professional success. Driven by that same terror of exposure, of losing status or control.
So we've followed this incredibly dark journey from the immigrant dream of Han and Big Pan.
Through the intense pressure, the years of intricate deception, the forged reports, the fake notebooks.
To the cold calculation of the murder-for-hire plot, the brutal attack, and the investigation that unraveled it all.
We saw how Han Pan's survival and testimony became the crucial turning point, and how police used psychological tactics legally to secure that confession.
And the biggest takeaway, really, is the ongoing legal saga. The fact that despite the 2015 convictions, Canada's Supreme Court has ordered a new trial for the first-degree murder of Big Pan. It means this story, legally, is still very much alive.
The conviction for attempting to murder Han stands, but that central question about the specific intent behind Big's death, it's going to be debated all over again in court.
The whole case forces you to grapple with that environment. What happens when those intense cultural pressures, the demand for success, collide so violently with failure and a desperate desire for autonomy?
It created a situation where the lie, maintaining the facade, became more important than life itself.
And we leave you with this thought. Can that kind of extreme external pressure ever truly explain, let alone excuse, such a profound betrayal, such utter devastation visited upon a family? Where does responsibility ultimately lie when a system built on rigid expectations finally shatters into violence?